All right, let's jump right into it. Today, we're unpacking the Codatta governance and treasury framework. Now, I know, when you hear governance documentation, your mind might immediately go to some dry, boring list of rigid rules. But we need to completely reframe that right now. What we're actually looking at here is not just a rule book. It is the absolute blueprint for a highly functional, highly secure, decentralized economy. We are literally looking at the architecture that makes this entire network tick. Okay, let's dive into this. When you look at the most successful decentralized networks out there, they absolutely do not just happen by accident. They operate very much like a digital nation state. And, just like any functioning nation state, they require a few non-negotiables: precise rules of law, a reliable source of fuel to power their operations, and really well-defined trade routes to interact with the outside world. This explainer is going to show you exactly how Codatta fine-tunes its economic engine to achieve exactly that. So here is a quick roadmap for our tour today. We'll start with Section 1, the overall Codatta economic engine. Then, Section 2, where we'll be defining the policy levers. Section 3 covers the flow of the X and Y token. Section 4 looks at funding the treasury. And finally, Section 5 wraps up with the open integration posture. Starting off with Section 1, the Codatta economic engine, cause and effect. And that brings us right into Section 2, defining the policy levers. This is essentially our control panel. So think of the framework we're exploring today as a massive series of interconnected gears. When one gear turns, say someone stakes a token or launches a task, it predictably drives network behavior somewhere else. If the economic engine is the machinery itself, these policy levers are the control panel. To be completely clear on the definition here, policy levers are the programmable rules and parameters governing operations like royalty bands, splits, access, staking, and task launches within the Codatta ecosystem. By actively adjusting these levers, the protocol can adapt, it can secure itself, and most importantly, it can incentivize the exact behaviors it needs to really thrive. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer granularity of control. These specific levers act as the legal guardrails for the entire ecosystem. For instance, think about access rules. Things like KYC requirements, audit levels, and dispute windows. These dictate exactly who gets to access restricted assets. Or take the task launch requirements. Those govern the underlying logic for sizing deposits and figuring out refunds. Even the revenue itself is meticulously governed through default split templates that automatically distribute the value across contributors, validators, backers, and the treasury. It completely takes the guesswork out of collaboration. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds the flow of the X and Y token, the system's currency. If the policy levers are the control panel, then the X and Y token is the high-octane fuel pumping through this economic engine. Let's do a little follow-the-money exercise to see exactly where tokens sink into the ecosystem. So when a user makes a task launch deposit, they're using X and Y to reserve network capacity and enforce SLAs. When ownership trades happen, like transferring bundles, X and Y is used for the settlement and listing fees. And get this, even with marketplace fees where a user might actually pay in stablecoins, there's still a small X and Y protocol fee applied on top. Every single major action requires syncing X and Y into the system, which is what creates this continuous organic demand. But wait, here is an absolutely crucial question we have to ask about any open decentralized system. How does Codatta actually ensure quality and deter fraud? Because if anyone can interact with the network, how do you stop bad actors from just spamming the system or submitting garbage work? Well, the answer lies directly in the token mechanics themselves. By requiring submission gas to be paid in X and Y, the network instantly deters spam. Why? Because every single submission now carries a real financial cost, a cost that cleverly goes on to fund indexing and security ops. On top of that, validators and contributors have to stake X and Y to signal confidence in their work. If they try to pass off low-quality or fraudulent submissions, that stake gets slashed. It's a brilliant, self-policing economic incentive that practically guarantees you're getting high-quality contributions. Actually, it's really important to contrast how these different currencies function within Codatta. X and Y's is your strict utility and security token. It sinks into gas, task launch deposits, staking, and ownership trades just to keep the network secure and humming along. But on the flip side, stablecoins are the primary vehicle for realizing actual value. Royalty payouts, usage revenue, and TNPL, that's the train now, pay later mechanism, those are shared primarily in stablecoins. This dual approach is great because the network stays protected by a native asset, while the participants can actually rely on stable, predictable assets for their revenue sharing. Moving right into Section 4, funding the treasury. Think of this as the innovation fund.
So what exactly happens to all those X and Y tokens and protocol fees that are sinking into the network? Well, they don't just disappear into the ether. And this brilliantly illustrates how the whole cycle works. The fees gathered are dynamically reinvested straight back into the community. The Treasury takes these funds and uses them for vital security audits, funding grants, paying out quality bounties, and building better tooling for agents and contributors. It even funds essential research. The network is quite literally paying for its own evolution.
Finally, Section 5, Open Integration Posture, Connecting to Web3. Up until now, we've spent this explainer looking inward at the internal economy. But let's zoom out for a second to the trade routes, the chassis that connects Codatta to the wider Web3 world. This framework maps out some beautifully seamless integration layers for developers. Step 1 provides API connectors so partners can effortlessly launch tasks, pull datasets, and run evals. Step 2 offers on-chain hooks for metering and settlement, which are specifically designed to play nice with allow-listed bridges. And Step 3 features identity and reputation adapters. This is huge because it means users don't have to start from scratch. They can just reuse their established credentials from partner ecosystems. It is incredibly frictionless. So the crucial point we really want to highlight here is summed up perfectly in this quote right from the docs. Codatta remains protocol first and open. See, despite having this incredibly strict internal governance, the slashing rules, and those precise token sinks protecting the network, the outward-facing framework is designed for maximum, completely frictionless interoperability. It's essentially a secure fortress, but with its doors thrown wide open for business. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. You've seen the control panel, you understand the flow of the X and Y fuel, and you know the trade routes are open and ready. So for all the Web3 builders, the validators, and the architects out there, how will you plug into this decentralized economic engine? The blueprint is right there, waiting in the documentation for you to leverage. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to dive in and explore these mechanics for yourself.